Alright, this is the impact of government policies on different public services by Abby and Andrew.
The policies that influence all services, financial reductions or increases. The finance in the public services has a massive impact. It's all to do with the money and how they can maintain and spend it well. For example, if the money was low within the police, they may not be able to afford the appropriate equipment and therefore lowers the opportunities of what that public service can afford to do. This would cause problems in that public service, and they would end up cutting employees in order to have that extra money to improve their resources. Also, making members of the public services redundant has its advantages and disadvantages, as the money can go to better equipment, but at the same time losing members of the team will affect the team's cohesion, and also they would lose their job to possibly support their families.
Policies affecting the military services, increased use of technology. The policy can be very important as you want to be up to date with the latest. As for example, when it comes to war, when a country's technology is not as effective than your enemy's is, you would have a lot of problems as the enemy who has those more high-tech weaponry and you don't. You wouldn't be able to act upon it and wouldn't be able to keep up. You would have yourself more defending than attacking because their weapons are going to be bigger. So having this policy has its disadvantages. For example,
advantage, it's a push to get more powerful weapons, which leads on to get a good chance of conflict. If you're fighting and you got up-to-date technology, then you're going to have a better chance of winning. It encourages people to use the high-tech weaponry when they get it. If it works, they're going to keep buying it, and also people might be more willing to fight and stuff if they've got good technology to use. Overall, it makes the military services more powerful the more up-to-date the technology is. Disadvantages it would cost more, and
the injury. So if you don't have high-tech weapons, you're going to have any other enemy does, for example, you're going to have a lot of people who's going to get injured from them as you're not up to date and not as good, and then obviously that costs more. It's going to go to medical to treat that, and then it costs lots of jobs for more money. So there was quite a long time ago, but I heard on the news that police have I think it was police, they had these pistols, but then they got updated pistols because they had better fire rates, better damage. So that could be an example of increasing high tech. So overall, it could cause complications within the service due to lack of money and then possible lack of recruits. And finally, policies affecting emergency services. We went to go for fire and rescue stations closures in some areas. We found this important as there are a lot of advantages and disadvantages within closures of the fire and rescue stations. The disadvantage of fire station closing in certain areas could be, for example, if a local fire station was closed down and there was a fire in that local area, the amount of time for another fire brigade to get to that area would have increased, as there would be no fire brigade in that local area, which puts life at more of a risk than they were before. The less fire stations mean less equipment, which means there could be a higher risk of injury or even death. But however, an advantage of this could be more effective and up-to-date equipment needed, such as more fire rangers for other fire brigades in other areas, which could be also lead to more people getting employed by other fire brigades, and then they could have more fire engines, so that increases how fast they get to a fire to save lives. So that's really important. We've got a video, haven't we?
oh yeah, got a video.
Got a video of a new high-tech weapon.
Yeah, that's
It's quite good.
This is the first time we're putting a smart weapon in the hands of our soldiers at the infantry squad level. And the XM25 is a 25 millimeter airburst technology. And what it really does is it's got three components. On the top you see an integrated fire control system with a day and a night sight. You have the weapon system itself, which is a rifle, semi-automatic rifle. which holds 4 rounds, and then you have the smart round. The 25 millimeter round has 2 warheads in it, and that's the destructive power you see in the video. But how it works, it's actually very simple. The soldier would just pick up the weapon, and I'll do that for you here if it's okay.
Go ahead.
He'd pick up the weapon, he would charge it, looks through the sight, he automatically lasers the distance to the target, and then he can increment using these buttons here, a plus or minus a meter. In this case, he'd want to add a meter, and then he simply just pulls the trigger. And when he does that, automatically the fire control system sends the information to the round, and the round knows exactly where to burst over the target.
So it actually, rather than being a direct line onto a target, it actually would go around and then burst behind him or above him, for example. I can kind of figure out what the advantages would be.
So yeah, having that being an advantage because you've got a big badass gun there, and as you can see that the actual, when you fire the gun, it goes behind the enemy. So we're not going back to how I said about how you be more defensive about it.
And it explodes loads of different bullets as well.
Yeah.
So I could get more than one person.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, well done guys. Round of applause. Okay, keep your PowerPoint open, please.
Okay.
Right, very good. Now, a couple of questions. First one, you talked about financial reductions. Can you go on to your financial reductions slide there? Yeah. Now, you talked about how it would affect the police in terms of if the money was low. Could you give me an example of how an increase in finance, you talked about a financial reduction in terms of the police, how an increase in finance would influence a military-based service? And we've already had an example from the army earlier on, so can you think of another one from another military-based service? Take your time. Yeah, so Navy would be an example, yeah.
Well, like, if like they had obviously like increase in budget, then they can, same as the army, they get more like equipment such as things like UAV and stuff to see what's going on, and it makes things more accurate and safer.
Okay, so what made what more accurate in particular? What are you talking about for the Navy?
To see, because that's all like ships and stuff. Isn't it?
Yeah, like
To see where ships are
more
coming.
budget, you're going to get more actual like weaponry.
Yeah, like
more stuff to
high-tech
use.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to get you to make the link between you two slides there. So you talked about increased use of technology. You know, how would an financial increase help something like the Navy? Yeah, because it increased their technology again.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
High-tech stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Right, like your video, that's good. That kind of helps to explain it. In terms of your fire station closures piece, can you just scroll down to that? Now, what you haven't done is come up with an example of fire station closures. So do you know of any sort of region where there was fire station closures and how that might have impacted that region? Explain how that region where there was fire station closures might have been affected by this fire station closures policy.
In Kent,
Okay.
there was a recent one. I don't know if it was at the beginning of this year. I think it might have been.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Well, I know more about like in Brooks and Dean's about London's one. I know that that actually got rejected because loads of people said, nah, that's not a good idea. So that actually didn't actually come across because the public, they know what's going to happen if they close that many fire stations down, and they know that loads and loads of jobs can be given away. They're not going to have any jobs. So that actually got rejected.
Yeah, good.
The Kent one, that would affect like the citizens and stuff because it's higher risk of death and injury and stuff like that. So if you said there's a fire, someone's going to die because they're not out in time.
Yeah, and what is it about sort of places like Kent and London?
They're not really busy.
Yeah, they're
so like traffic and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, excellent. Good. So they're very, they're congested areas, aren't they? And they're quite big areas as well.
Exactly.
Kent's quite a big county. If you've got to get across it through traffic, yeah, definitely becomes a big risk. Perfect. Well answered. Okay. Yeah. Well done, guys.
Cool, thanks.